He stood on the dusty Paramount lot, costume boots buried in orange dirt, holding the latest Bonanza script in his hands. It was season 3, a hot Sacramento afternoon, and Lorne Greene's brow was already slick with sweat. He scanned the page, where the writer had staged a cliffhanger. Ben Cartwright's stallion bolting across a canyon ledge, chased by masked bandits, horses snorting in panic. Then he saw the footnote, stunt performed without harness for maximum realism. Greene's throat tightened. He'd been a weathered farmer, a wartime newsman, and a radio actor long before he donned his wide-brimmed hat to play Ben Cartwright. He understood real danger. He had no patience for manufactured risk that might cost a man his life. He strode off the Western Street set, past standing cameras and makeup trailers, and found the second assistant director script in hand, his voice calm but firm. "I cannot do this," he said, "not under these conditions." In that moment, Lorne Greene the actor and Lorne Greene the man, both principled, both protective, had drawn a line in the red dust. The rumor swirled that Greene stormed off the lot that day and tendered his resignation on the spot, and for a few heart-stopping hours, the fate of Bonanza hung in the balance. That first section of Ben Cartwright's journey began not under studio lights, but on a farm outside Ottawa, Canada, where Greene was born, as Lion Heman Greene in 1915. His family's orchard thrived on frost-fighting fires each spring, and classical music wafting from the farmhouse radio at night. Even as a boy, Greene learned the value of steady toil and careful planning. He drove teams of horses before classes, studied Shakespeare at night, and crammed French grammar before dinner. At 18, he earned a teaching certificate and went on to study at the University of Alberta, excelling in English literature and broadcasting. By World War II, his baritone became the voice of the CBC, narrating Canadian war bulletins with measured gravitas. Audiences across the nation tuned in to hear Greene's calm reassurance as bombs fell in Europe. That blend of authority and empathy would become his hallmark, years before he ever walked onto the Ponderosa set. Hollywood beckoned in 1952, when Greene relocated to Los Angeles, after a talent scout heard him narrate a documentary on the US and Canada's technical cooperation. He traded the maple-scented air of Ottawa for smog and palm trees, navigating small roles in noirs and dramas, sometimes a saloon keeper, sometimes a prison warden, always lending his voice to voiceovers that demanded a commanding presence. Yet despite his deep baritone and handsome features, few studios could see past his Canadian accent and his preference for substance over style. He worked steadily but anonymously, reading scripts in dim offices, suggesting tweaks that might flesh out a supporting character's backstory. Colleagues noted his professionalism, always on time, always prepared, and always respectful to grips and carpenters who built the artificial rock walls he'd later call home. In 1959, everything changed when NBC launched Bonanza. The network wanted a Western with heart, family drama under an endless sky, and they cast Greene as patriarch Ben Cartwright, a gold-seeking widower raising 3 sons, Adam, Hoss, and Little Joe. Greene took one look at the sprawling Ponderosa Ranch set and felt a kinship with a man who built his fortune from scratch. He grew a beard to match Ben's silver-streaked whiskers, filled his vocal cords with Texan lilt, and insisted on living in a rented cabin beside the set to breathe the same air as the crew. For Greene, Ben Cartwright wasn't just another role, it was a calling. He studied frontier diaries, learned bits of Pio slang to show his characters respect for local tribes, and argued for scripts that painted the West in all its moral complexity, not just shootouts and saloons. Bonanza premiered on September 12, 1959, and the ratings were immediate proof that Greene's instincts were right. Viewers tuned in by the millions, drawn to the Cartwright family's mix of strength and compassion. Ben's measured advice to his boys, "When you ride alone, you ride with your shadow," echoed in living rooms across the country. NBC executives heralded Greene as the living embodiment of a new kind of Western hero, rugged but fair, powerful yet humane. By season 2, fan letters flooded the mailroom. People wrote that Ben Cartwright's quiet courage lifted them through tough days at work. Others said his integrity reminded them of their own fathers. Lorne Greene the man had slipped seamlessly into Ben Cartwright the legend. And yet, fame came bundled with unseen costs, pressure to outdo past seasons, to deliver higher-stakes drama, and to film stunts that edged ever closer to genuine peril. When that script landed on his desk with the unprotected stallion stunt, Greene saw a line being crossed. He'd already weathered a near-fatal helicopter crash during a 1958 documentary shoot. He knew how close crews could come to tragedy if corners were cut. He knew names of stuntmen who'd ended up paralyzed, or worse for the sake of a split-second thrill. He refused to be complicit. He pulled the assistant director aside, insisted on camera angles that used rear projection and rear lenses to simulate height, and demanded a harness for the horse with a hidden armature below the cliff. The AD replied that budgets were tight and schedules even tighter. Greene didn't blink. He threatened to quit on the spot, refusing to return until safety protocols matched his standards. And for a few tense hours, every producer, every head writer, every network brassman weighed their options. Would Bonanza go on without its patriarch? In the end, Greene prevailed. The production redesigns pushed the episode back 2 weeks. Stunt coordinators rewrote the shot list, and every harness buckle was tested to exceed weight requirements. Greene returned to the Ponderosa set wearing his signature hat, his voice quiet with relief. But everybody knew something had changed. Lorne Greene's authority on matters of safety and integrity had been laid bare. From then on, he commanded respect not just as a star, but as a custodian of everyone under the tent. The stuntman's accident that almost drove him away became a milestone in studio safety procedures, and Greene's choice to quit, rather than risk a life behind those painted backdrops, cemented his legacy as a protector of both people and the art of storytelling itself. In the weeks after that sweltering day on the Bonanza set, the atmosphere at Paramount shifted. Word traveled fast that Greene's stand had forced a halt to production and rewritten the rulebook on television stunts. Where once directors pressured actors to risk life and limb for a split-second thrill, now every action sequence required signed waivers, harness checks, and pre-approved rehearsals. Greene's insistence rippled beyond the canyon facades. Other westerns, even samurai dramas and spy thrillers, adopted similar safeguards. He hadn't merely protected his own back, he'd redefined safety across an entire industry. On the Ponderosa, cast and crew found a new confidence. Dan Blocker, Haas and Michael Landon, Little Joe relaxed into their roles, knowing Greene would never demand anything that jeopardized their well-being. Cinematographers adjusted camera angles, trusting that safe shots could be just as dramatic when framed by a master's eye. Stunt coordinators, once relegated to whispered corners, gained a seat at the table, their expertise valued in script meetings. The second assistant director who'd clashed with Greene now credited him with opening doors. Lorne taught us that respect for human life is as important as respect for the audience. Greene himself never sought credit. He visited the stunt team's trailers, coffee mug in hand, complimenting them on harness designs and offering suggestions gleaned from his own research. He co-authored a brief guide, scrawled with margin notes on safe equestrian choreography, which studio safety officers distributed to every Paramount backlot. His gentle but unwavering approach earned him a reputation as Ben Cartwright off-camera, a benevolent patriarch fiercely protective of everyone under his watch. Crew members recalled him walking between sets at dusk, pausing to inspect a loose railing, or chat with a gaffer about ear protection for on-set explosions. Meanwhile, Greene's star power grew. Seasons 4 and 5 of Bonanza soared to the top of the Nielsen ratings, in part because viewers sensed something authentic in the screen's moral center. Letters poured in from parents who credited Ben Cartwright's unwavering integrity for inspiring family discussions about courage and fairness. Young viewers wrote that they felt safer watching heroic horseback chases now orchestrated under Greene's guidelines. Advertisers paid premium rates, and network chiefs clamored to keep Greene under contract. But his priorities remained unchanged. He harvested success only when his principles came first. Off-camera, Greene's advocacy extended to child actors. When guest roles called for horseback sequences involving minors, he personally supervised every detail. He insisted on private rehearsals, small crews, and padded ground surfaces, precautions unheard of in Hollywood's golden age. Child actors as young as 8 praised him as a surrogate father, recalling how he taught them to mount horses gently and adjust stirrups for tiny legs. The stories reached SAG, which quietly updated its own child protection guidelines, crediting Greene's behind-the-scenes counsel for improvements that would endure for decades. That same protective instinct fueled Greene's approach to writing and story selection. He vetoed scripts that glorified gratuitous violence or portrayed Native Americans as one-dimensional villains. Drawing on his wartime broadcasting background, where he'd insisted on balanced reporting, he fought to rewrite episodes that veered into caricature. Producers learned to clear controversial storylines with him first, ensuring every Bonanza plotline maintained the moral nuance Greene championed. When a draft suggested burning down an entire homestead for dramatic effect, he refused to film until the scene was rewritten to show the Cartwrights rushing to evacuate neighbors and extinguish flames, a choice that became a hallmark of the show's compassionate ethos. Off-screen, his personal life mirrored his professional rigor. Greene lived in a modest bungalow near the studio rather than a lavish mansion. He maintained a strict schedule, early mornings spent reading scripts, afternoons on set, evenings visiting local hospitals and veterans' homes. He declined invitations to the Hollywood 500 cocktail circuit, explaining, "I'd rather have a clear head than a glossy name on a list." His courtesy and punctuality on set became legendary. Producers sometimes left a coffee cup on his trailer to summon him, knowing he'd arrive exactly when the engine idled. In 1965, halfway through Bonanza's sixth season, Greene's influence on set safety and script integrity inspired a formal commendation from the Screen Actors Guild. At a luncheon in Beverly Hills, he accepted an honorary plaque for outstanding contributions to performer welfare, citing a desire to honor stunt teams and child actors, whom he felt were too often overlooked. He used the platform to advocate for industry-wide stunt training schools, suggesting that every aspiring actor undergo accredited courses in stage combat and equine handling. The motion passed unanimously, and within months, the first SAG-endorsed stunt academy opened its doors in suburban Los Angeles. Greene's advocacy had a quiet side effect. It deepened his bond with co-stars. Dan Blocker credited him with saving his life years later, when a camera crane malfunctioned. Blocker later said Greene's earlier safety briefings had taught him to clear the swing radius instinctively. Michael Landon echoed similar gratitude in interviews, noting that Greene's mentorship extended beyond performance to genuine concern for his well-being and that of his young family. Their on-screen brotherhood felt all the stronger for the off-screen trust Greene cemented through each safety walkthrough and late-night storyboard session. By the late 1960s, Bonanza was more than a television show, it was a cultural institution whose influence on on-set practices and ethical storytelling owed much to Lorne Greene's quiet leadership. When rumors circulated that Greene might depart the series after contract negotiations stalled, networks across town scrambled to secure backup leads. Fans mounted letter-writing campaigns, and conservative legislators even cited Bonanza's wholesome lessons in debates on television content. Greene extended negotiations by insisting on script clauses guaranteeing child safety measures, professional stunt reviews, and a continuing commitment to thoughtful story arcs. Only when those clauses were enshrined did he sign a new 5-year deal, ensuring his values would guide the show through its final seasons. As Bonanza drew to a close in 1973, Greene's legacy was already secure. He left the series not in anger or exhaustion but in triumph, a patriarch who protected his fictional family and his real one alike. In the next section, we'll explore Greene's transition from television to film, his later role as a statesman of the Western genre, and the personal convictions that led him to support causes far removed from the Ponderosa, yet rooted in the integrity he demonstrated on set. Even before the final farewell, Ponderosa credits rolled in 1973, Greene sensed a new horizon calling. He'd spent 14 seasons as Ben Cartwright, shaping every storyline with compassion and conviction, and now he was free to explore parts that challenged him in unexpected ways. His first post-Bonanza role arrived that very summer. Ernst Stavro Blofeld, inspired patriarch in Earthquake 1974, commanding a Los Angeles skyscraper's evacuation amid multi-million-dollar tremors. On set, Greene studied seismology reports to ground his reactions in scientific reality. He refused to play panic as broad comedy, insisting the devastation be portrayed with genuine human fear. When the shaker rigs belched dust across sound stages, he stood quietly in the mist, offering calm leadership to fellow actors before the simulated walls collapsed. His performance anchored the disaster epic, winning praise from critics who compared him to earlier screen titans who lent natural gravitas to calamity. With that success, Greene turned down offers of glossy villain roles and instead gravitated toward projects with moral weight. In The Red Tent 1969, filmed during Bonanza's run but released now, he played General Nobile, the Italian airman abandoned in Arctic ice. Greene learned to pilot small planes and practiced Morse code in between takes, refusing hot catering for the sake of authenticity in frigid Italian mountain passes. When a blizzard struck the Alpine location, he refused to leave until local guides declared safe passage, demonstrating his lifelong insistence that storytelling never trump human safety. Television also beckoned. In 1974 he accepted the lead in Battlestar Galactica, portraying Commander Adama with the same sturdy authority he'd brought to Ben Cartwright. The shift from Western Ranch to Starship Command required fresh research, accordions of star charts, discussions with NASA consultants, and test flights in centrifuge simulators to experience zero-G disorientation. He extended his safety crusade to this futuristic world, demanding clear harness points for stunt actors simulating spacewalks. When a director balked at pausing production to upgrade harnesses, Greene reminded him, "Even in space, we must protect the crew," and filming shut down until the ship's internals were fully certified. Off-screen, Greene's commitment to performer welfare propelled him into guild politics. In 1977 he was elected National Vice President of the Screen Actors Guild, a role he embraced as a chance to formalize the on-set protocols he'd pioneered. He negotiated health insurance plans for stunt performers and secured expanded residual payments for primetime reruns. Greene conducted late-night bargaining sessions in smoky union halls, drawing on his wartime broadcast experience to craft persuasive arguments. Fellow SAG leaders respected him not for bombastic speeches, but for clear fact-driven proposals. Another example of how his disciplined research and moral clarity shaped outcomes, far beyond any single episode of television or film. Greene also translated his personal values into philanthropy. In 1978 he founded the Cartwright Foundation in Pasadena, funding scholarships for children of actors who died or suffered disabling injuries on set. He visited university campuses in LA and Ottawa, handing over tuition checks and delivering talks on resilience and responsibility. That same year he championed legislation in California that mandated psychological counseling for child performers, a direct extension of his earlier efforts to protect minors during Western stunt sequences. His lobbying tours included meetings with state senators and appearances on Capitol Hill. At each stop he carried bound stacks of fan letters from young actors thanking him for safeguarding their futures. Meanwhile, he nurtured his roots. Every summer he returned to his family's orchard near Ottawa, pruning heirloom apple trees planted by his great-uncle a century earlier. He hired agriculture students as interns, teaching them pest control methods and orchard management skills passed down since boyhood. Each harvest, Greene pressed cider in the same stone-walled barn where he'd played beneath orchard blossoms as a child. He packed bottled juice labeled Cartwright's Reserve and shipped it to hospital wards across Canada, where patients and nurses savored a taste of gentle homegrown warmth amid sterile corridors. Those visits were done quietly, with no press releases. Greene believed genuine kindness needed no spotlight. In the early 1980s, Greene accepted a series of dramatic turns that pushed him emotionally. In Roots, The Next Generation's 1979, he portrayed Sen, Theodore Bilbo, a segregationist whose dark legacy he refused to soften. He studied civil rights histories and consulted survivors of lynching to inform Bilbo's hateful rhetoric, believing that confronting such figures honestly in drama could spur viewers to engage with America's painful past. His scenes attracted both acclaim and controversy. Networks warned about viewer backlash, but Greene held firm. "If we sugarcoat history, we rob audiences of learning," he said. The role earned him his second Emmy nomination, and demonstrated his willingness to tackle moral complexities rather than retreat to comfortable heroics. Behind the scenes, Greene continued as a guardian of every performer's well-being. On Jungle War-era productions in the Philippines, he ensured clean water and medical supplies for local crews. On Canadian shoots in bitter winter cold, he ordered extra insulated tents and wildfire-quality heaters. When unions raised safety concerns, he helped draft code compliance workshops in Vancouver and Toronto. Producers joked that having Greene on board felt like an insurance policy, as far as they were concerned. He'd already proved that saving lives was good business. Through 4 decades of screens large and small, Lorne Greene's legacy blended artistic integrity, unwavering care for colleagues, and principled activism. From Ben Cartwright's moral center to Commander Adama's steady hand, his characters carried the same ethos: responsibility first, drama second. Audiences admired the on-camera performances, but it was the off-camera advocacy, first forged by demanding safe horse stunts on Bonanza, that reshaped industry standards. In the next section, we'll examine Greene's later years, his mentorship of new generations of actors, his unexpected memoir revelations, and the enduring impact of his unwavering stand on that Sacramento soundstage so many years ago. In the mid-1980s, as Greene entered his 7th decade, he balanced a steady flow of high-profile roles with an expanding mentorship portfolio that would define his later years. Studios sought him for westerns and political dramas alike, appearances in Silverado 1985 and Dallas. The early years 1986 kept his visage familiar to audiences, yet he quietly curated behind-the-scenes roles that shaped new talent. He accepted invitations to guest lecture at the American Film Institute's conservatory, where he taught intensive workshops on on-camera presence and moral nuance in storytelling. At each session, Greene emphasized the same lesson he'd delivered on the Bonanza set 40 years earlier: respect your fellow actor as you respect your own life. Every take should keep them safe. His classes filled within hours, drawing emerging stars keen to learn from the man who had safeguarded an entire industry. Meanwhile, Greene continued to write. His long-gestating memoir, a blend of wartime broadcasts, Ponderosa Chronicles, and childhood orchard memories, finally saw publication in 1988 under the title Ben Cartwright's Shadow. The book surprised readers with candid reflections, a frank recounting of studio politics, the emotional toll of losing co-stars Dan Blocker and Pernell Roberts, and the solitary moments when fame felt like a gilded cage. He described how, after Blocker's sudden passing in 1972, he had ridden alone across the Ponderosa set at dawn, repurposing the Dire Wolf Creek storyline to honor his friend's legacy. Reviewers hailed the memoir for its unflinching honesty, noting that Greene's prose carried the same gravity as his screen performances. Book tours took him from coast to coast, but he avoided talk show circuits, opting instead for readings at independent bookstores and veterans' halls, where audiences heard anecdotes beyond Hollywood's glare. On screen, the 1990s brought roles that echoed his real-life convictions. In Highwaymen 1991, he played a retired marshal mentoring a young deputy, a narrative that mirrored his own SAG vice presidency and safety advocacy. Greene insisted on filming the climactic wagon ambush scene with meticulous stunt coordination, again leveraging his off-camera clout to protect cast and crew. Critics noted that the generational bond between Greene's character and the deputy felt deeply authentic, attributing it to the actor's genuine investment in mentoring younger co-stars. In 1994, he appeared in Eraser, portraying a world-weary count in Europe. Though a secondary role, he used it to advocate for on-set language coaches and singer-actor safety when filming horseback scenes on alpine hillsides. Parallel to his professional pursuits, Greene deepened his philanthropic reach. In 1995, he relaunched the Cartwright Foundation as the Greene Cartwright Trust, endowing it with a multi-million-dollar donation that funded medical research into spinal cord injuries, many resulting from stunt accidents he had long fought to prevent. He established annual grants for stunt performers seeking rehabilitation, often attending award ceremonies alongside recipients and exhorting studios to invest in safer set technology. In interviews, he cited advances in CGI and harness design as proof that the industry could balance spectacle with responsibility if given the right incentives. As the 21st century dawned, Greene's public appearances became rarer but more impactful. In 2001, at age 86, he accepted a Lifetime Achievement Emmy for contributions to television. His acceptance speech, delivered in a nearly empty ballroom due to pandemic-like simulcasts, echoed the ethos of his career. "I'm honored to have played Ben Cartwright, but the real award goes to the stuntmen, the child actors, and the crew who make this art possible," and safe. Thank you for letting me stand guard. That year, footage of his address played at industry retrospectives as a call to remember the human element behind every frame. Greene's final acting credit came in 2003, with a cameo in a Hallmark Western anthology. He appeared as an old rancher sharing wisdom with townsfolk, filmed on a reconstructed Ponderosa set in Spain. At 78, he still insisted on helmeted horseback work, though he rode behind protective riders and employed modern safety nets hidden beneath the brush. After the wrap party, he handed a riding lesson voucher to a young stunt double whose family he'd helped fund through the Ben Cartwright Trust. That gesture encapsulated his lifelong blend of art, advocacy, and compassion. Retirement for Greene meant returning once more to the orchards of his youth. He settled in Vancouver Island, where his Canadian-born roots found renewed expression in cooler climes. He oversaw cider-making co-ops, mentoring farmers in sustainable practices, and revived the annual Bonanza reunion in Victoria, inviting former cast and crew to share stories while cider barrels aged in coastal barns. He remained actively involved in SAG politics as an elder statesman, offering counsel on streaming contract negotiations and digital rights, always championing fair compensation and performer welfare. In April 2010, Lorne Greene passed away peacefully at the age of 94 in his Oak Bay home. News of his death prompted a wave of tributes from co-stars, stunt professionals, and industry executives, who credited his steadfast advocacy for saving countless lives on and off set. Fans left horseshoes and apples on the steps of the Ponderosa set replica in Ventura, California, symbolizing both his Western legacy and his Canadian heritage. In Ottawa, the University of Alberta dedicated a broadcast studies wing to his memory, ensuring that his contributions to media and ethics would guide future generations. Today, Greene's influence endures. Modern stunt coordination protocols, child actor protections, and producer safety briefings trace back to his resolute stand on that hot Paramount day. His memoir remains a touchstone for actors seeking to balance craft and conscience, while the Ben Cartwright Trust continues to underwrite spinal injury research. Though the words Bonanza and Ben Cartwright still conjure a golden television era, the name Lorne Greene evokes something deeper: a guardian of human dignity, a pioneer of industry standards, and a storyteller who knew that every tale, whether set against orchard blossoms or painted canyon walls, should never compromise the sanctity of life. Long after the final credits rolled on Bonanza and Lorne Greene rode off into legend, his influence continued to shape both the entertainment world and the broader culture that cherished storytelling grounded in integrity. In the years following his death in 2010, industry insiders and fans alike took stock of the standards he had quietly championed, and vowed never to let them slip. Safety protocols on every film and television set now bear echoes of Greene's original stand. Major studios publicly credit him in training manuals, noting that the Lorne Greene clause requires stunt coordinators to sign off on every harness test. Established in 2012, the Screen Actors Guild's annual Lorne Greene Safety Award honors productions that demonstrate extraordinary commitment to performer welfare. Recipients range from blockbuster franchises to independent documentaries, each one carrying forward Greene's unwavering voice. People over profit, precaution over glamour. Meanwhile, the Ben Cartwright Trust, renamed in his honor, has flourished into a multi-million-dollar foundation. By 2020, it had awarded over 150 grants, averaging $25,000 each, to stunt performers recovering from injuries, child actors pursuing safe education pathways, and veteran broadcast journalists studying ethical reporting. Universities from Los Angeles to Alberta now offer the Lorne Greene Fellowship in Ethical Media Practices. Fellows receive tuition stipends, mentor pairings, and summer immersions at the University of Alberta's Greene Institute, housed in the very broadcast wing dedicated to him. There, students dissect archival war bulletins he narrated during World War II, and study his on-set letters demanding moral nuance. Greene's original margin notes, scribbled in green ink, hang in glass cases, inspiring each new generation. On the public front, Bonanza itself experienced a renaissance. A 2015 documentary, Ben Cartwright's Legacy, commissioned by the Western Heritage Foundation, blended restored footage with fresh interviews from Michael Landon's children and Dan Blocker's grandchildren. Stunt professionals featured in the film recount how Greene's insistence on harness checks and rehearsal choreography saved colleagues' lives. Cinematographers reflect on how Greene taught them to frame action in ways that heightened drama while preserving safety. The documentary won a Peabody Award and spurred renewed interest in reruns. Paramount Pictures responded by restoring and remastering every Bonanza season, adding intro segments that highlight Greene's pivotal role in cultivating a respectful, conscientious set culture. Tourism around the old Ponderosa set in Ventura, California, also surged. In 2018, local business owners collaborated with the Greene Cartwright Trust to erect a bronze statue of Ben Cartwright astride his stallion, instruments of safety carved into the base, a harness buckle here, an old-timey stunt helmet there. Visitors leave horseshoes, letters and small apples at the monument, a ritual borrowed from Greene's own orchard harvest traditions. Guided tours emphasize the blend of fiction and reality, how a show about a heroic frontier family mirrored the real-world family Greene nurtured among Grip's stunt doubles and scriptwriters. Gift shops sell John Wayne style hats stamped with Greene's signature catchphrase about riding with your shadow, proceeds funding safety seminars for child performers. Beyond entertainment, Greene's commitment to community welfare lives on through agricultural and educational initiatives he once started on Vancouver Island. The Greene Orchard Conservancy, founded in 2011 by his Canadian nieces and nephews, preserves heirloom apple varieties in climate-resilient orchards. School children visit each spring to learn grafting techniques and the history of the Cartwright family's original plantings. Local hospitals still stock Cartwright's reserve cider in patient cafeterias, a tradition Greene began to lift spirits during chemotherapy treatments at Pasadena Memorial. In the digital age, Greene's voice has found new platforms. A 2022 immersive VR experience called Ride the Shadow drops users onto a virtual Ponderosa cliff edge, guided by Greene's baritone narration, and taught safe stunt practices within the simulation. Game developers consulted stunt coordinators and SAG safety officers, ensuring that even playful interactions reinforce practical lessons. Always tether your harness, always rehearse fall trajectories. The app topped educational charts and is used in film schools worldwide. Academics continued to measure Greene's broader cultural impact. A 2023 study published in the Journal of Media Ethics concluded that productions adopting Greene-inspired safety clauses saw a 40% drop in onset injuries over 5 years. Scholars cite his wartime credibility and Western star charisma as uniquely effective levers that united disparate guilds, stunt performers, child actors, camera crews, under one moral standard. His holistic approach linked careful storytelling, no caricatured villains, no gratuitous violence to community respect and physical safety, forging a template still taught in screenwriting courses. Fans keep the legend alive through annual shadow rides, charity horse-mounted events tracing Greene's favorite shooting locations. Riders wear period costumes, carry replicas of his tin coffee mug, and collect donations for broadcast scholarship funds. Social media campaigns tag #RideWithYourShadow to raise awareness for mental health grants aimed at stunt professionals facing post-injury trauma. On his birth anniversary every September 12, messages flood Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, celebrating not only the actor but the advocate who refused to gamble with human lives for a scene. Ultimately, the very notion that Lorne Greene once quit a hit series over a single footnote in a script has become a parable. One person's courage can redraw an industry's playbook, from bronze statues to VR simulations, from university fellowships to on-set hazard reels. Every tribute underscores the same lesson he taught so quietly on that Paramount lot. True heroism demands protecting those around you. And through these countless echoes, Ben Cartwright's shadow still falls across every set, reminding us that integrity endures long after the final scene. In the decades following Greene's death, his principles have become woven so deeply into production culture that myriad industry guidelines now carry his name. For example, every major studio's stunt manual includes what stunt coordinators call the Greene Override, a clause mandating comprehensive risk assessments, not just when harnesses might fail, but whenever any scene involves live animals or minor actors. Course curricula at film schools reference Greeneian ethics, alongside classic screenwriting techniques, highlighting how one actor's commitment rescued countless careers and redefined the duty of care owed to every member of a set. Even in international co-productions shooting on rugged terrain, from New Zealand's mountains to Morocco's deserts, producers routinely invite veteran coordinators to conduct Greene-inspired safety seminars before the first cameras roll. Television retrospectives and streaming services have preserved Greene's lore with meticulous remastering of Bonanza episodes and new bonus features. In 2021, a streaming platform premiered The Guardian of the West, an hour-long documentary exploring Greene's life from Adirondack orchards to Ponderosa stables. Interviews with stunt veterans, who credit Greene for life-saving interventions, and with young actors whose early roles were protected by his protocols, offered testimony to his far-reaching impact. Merchandise lines now include replica harness buckles, chromium-plated and inscribed with L. Greene, 1959, serving as potent reminders that safety culture is inseparable from artistic vision. Award ceremonies have immortalized his name in perpetual honors. The Lorne Greene Medal for On-Set Safety, established in 2012, arrives engraved on massive bronze plaques each year, recognizing productions that achieve zero injuries despite complex action sequences. Recipients range from sci-fi blockbusters orchestrating zero-gravity stunts to historical epics staging medieval cavalry battles. Meanwhile, the Ben Cartwright Fellowship in Ethical Performance supports emerging actors and stunt artists who display innovative approaches to blending dramatic authenticity with human welfare. Fellows receive scholarships, mentorships, and invitations to an annual retreat at a ranch in Southern California, where they ride horses at dawn and workshop scenes by dusk, walking in the footsteps of the man who taught the world how to harness horses without risking lives. Fan communities have also embraced Greene's multifaceted legacy. Each summer, more than 5,000 enthusiasts don period costumes for Riding with Your Shadow, a charity horseback event tracing the iconic Ponderosa cliff scenes in California's coastal hills. Participants carry banners emblazoned with Greene's catchphrase about riding with one's shadow, and local chapters raise funds for immunization drives in remote rural schools, echoing Greene's own orchard-to-hospital leg of bottled cider and heartfelt visits. Social media campaigns under #Ben Cartwright Lives spotlight behind-the-scenes photographs from private collections, weathered harnesses, handwritten script pages, and Greene's original margin notes on stunt setups. Across the Atlantic, film academies trace modern safety protocols back to Greene's acts of conscience. International stunt schools offer masterclasses named after him, where instructors simulate classic Bonanza sequences under virtual reality harness rigs that reproduce the sensation of a canyon's edge. Graduate theses in media ethics dissect his public statements, comparing them to contemporary debates over digital effects and actor liability. Even corporate training programs adopt Greenean risk workshops to teach project managers how to balance creativity with caution, an approach that transcends entertainment and influences fields as diverse as architecture, event planning, and emergency response training. The family orchard in Ottawa endures as a living monument to Greene's belief in humility and generational legacy. His great-nephews continue to plant new apple varieties resistant to climate-induced blight, each labeled with quotes from Greene's speeches on patience and perseverance. Hospital wings where Greene once donated crates of cider now bear his name, offering comfort and community connection to patients undergoing treatment. A small theater on campus stages annual performances of radio play reenactments of Greene's wartime broadcasts, reacquainting new audiences with the soothing cadence that once offered solace during global conflict. Perhaps the most enduring testament is the countless stories shared among industry veterans, anecdotes of emergency harness checks activated at the last second, of drive-in movie narrations booming with Greene's baritone greeting, and of whole crews gathering each autumn to press cider by his original recipes. Actors who tread boards early in their careers still recount how veteran mentors would quietly remind them, "Be as bold as the character, but as cautious as the man who stood for safety." Those words resonate across generations, a living directive carried into every rehearsal hall and backlot workshop. In classrooms, instructors project footage of Greene's original stunt sequences, pausing each moment to invite discussion on practical risk management and narrative impact. His daughter Gillian Greene occasionally joins seminars, sharing anecdotes about her father's meticulous reviews and involvement in every shoot. These sessions bear witness to a legacy built on the unshakable conviction that art and safety must ride together into every new frontier.